Hi everybody, this is TaNaia speaking. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Today I decided to do a pull from my two favorite oracle decks, the Hero's Journey Dream Oracle, and from the Sufi Wisdom Oracle. I hope you enjoy the reading. My intention, as I shuffled the cards, was to ask of Spirit, what is it that we need to know for this moment? And I was thinking particularly for this week. So feel free though to set your own intention for the reading in order to get the most out of it. Now, my intention was to use the card that fell out from the Hero's Journey Oracle, to use that as the theme for our reading, and then to pull two more cards from the Sufi Wisdom Oracle to basically expand on that message or to enrich that message for us so that we can apply it in a practical manner. So I'm going to jump right in. And I think before I start, or maybe let me start with the card here that came out. So let me just bring it up so that you can see more clearly in terms of the image itself. These images are always like very interesting to look into. So the card is North Star, flip your inner light switch. So as you can see, so it's talking about the North Star, which most of us, when we think of the North Star, we think of a guiding light, right? And then flip your inner light switch. So something about the North Star being sort of outside of ourselves, but also the idea of it being inside of ourselves. So that's really interesting. But before I go further with what I get from this card, I thought it was interesting just to share what was at the bottom of the deck after I pulled this card. And this beautiful card is actually at the bottom of the deck. It talks about one with the sun, be the light. So I really think that this card is reminding us that we are the light, that the light is us, right? So sometimes it's difficult for us to understand what that means or to put it in practical terms because we go through so many things and difficulties and challenges that it doesn't feel like we are the light. We don't feel very light. And yet it's important for us to remember and to realize that even if we may feel that way, our inner radiance is always there shining, whether or not we may be aware of it at that time. So the card now, as I said, so the card that came out was the North Star. So what's interesting with this is that it talks about the light switch being an inner thing. Sometimes this is hard for us to really grasp, because really what this card is saying is that we are to use our inner guidance or inner North Star in order to guide us. Understanding, as we've talked about, that our light sits within us. Now that might be a little bit difficult for us to think about, okay, but what does it mean in practical terms? But one of the ways in which I use to understand this or to start thinking about it or working with it is to think about the higher self. So the higher self, if that's an idea that you are familiar with and you're comfortable with, you can think of the North Star then as the higher self. So if you ask yourself in the situation, what would my higher self guide me to do? What would my higher self do if I try to act for the highest good in this particular situation? What is it that I would do or say, or how would I react? That is the way in which you can start really using your inner light and your North Star, and following your inner North Star. So that's the theme for the reading. The next card that came out was ending a trauma. So again, just so that you see the image and the art on the card. So ending a trauma, transform memories and symptoms. So now this starts really, for me, sort of clarifying or adding to the message that we got about the inner light that we have. And it talks about ending a trauma. Now, if you look at this card, I just think that the imagery is really interesting because, as you can see, firstly, it's all these patterns, right? So that's what happens with trauma, is that we have all these patterns and all this conditioning that we've gone through that makes it really difficult for us to break the cycle and really difficult for us to transform. But if I link it to our first card, you know, by remembering that we are light, by following our inner guidance, our North Star, we can start ending this trauma. We can start transforming our memories and symptoms. So it's by really leaning in to this idea of us being light and love, like pure love and pure light, that is actually going to help us to break free from the trauma that we've experienced. And I mean, doesn't even need to be like really complex trauma, and sometimes we're not even aware of the ways in which we have been traumatized. But I think another way to think about it, if the word trauma doesn't resonate, is to think about it as conditioning, the ways in which we've been conditioned by the world, by society, by the circumstances we find ourselves in. For example, things like, you know, the kind of conditioning that keeps us small and keeps us quiet and maybe not wanting to take up space. Those are examples of the kinds of patterns and the types of conditioning that realizing and remembering that we are light can actually help us transform out of. And actually, interesting that the bottom of the deck of the Sufi Wisdom Oracle was the card, the Gift of Freedom. So again, you know, we are able to have this gift of freedom to break away from our attachments once we start really understanding that we are actually the light. So really, really interesting and very clear message that's coming through for me for this week is switch on your inner light. Remember that you are light itself. Use that then to transform from conditioning and from patterns that have been maybe keeping you down or maybe limiting you. All right. And then the last card that came out was Work of Art, Be the Portrait of Divine Beauty. I really like this card because then it talks about really the way forward. Is that the way forward is, so we use the light, we transform from our conditioning, and then, pardon me, and then our life becomes a work of art, right? We become the portrait of divine beauty. So looking at this image here, it's quite interesting, right? Because again, you've got the rays of light that come through, right? And then we ourselves, this is, I would think that this represents we ourselves. We become the portrait of divine beauty. We transform and we become the portraits of divine beauty by really allowing that light to shine on us or exude from us. And I really think it's so nice. Like if I look at all of this, it's almost like transforming into like a river or into running waters, which is associated with life. But anyway, this is about our lives being a work of art, living our lives in a way that feels like it's a work of art, which is really far removed, right, from this idea or this feeling of being in trauma or this feeling of having these patterns which we are repeating and which restrict us. So using the light to break away from attachments, to break away from conditioning, and live our lives as a work of beauty. So I think that's the message for this week. Perhaps what I'll do is I'll just read from the book. I quite like from the work of art, yes. I think because that's really, once we apply everything that we've been talking about, this is going to be the end result, is that our life is going to be a work of art. It will be the portrait of divine beauty. So I think we can read from the book. It's always great to get a little bit more about what is this going to look like for us once we've attained it, or as we work towards it. What does it mean for our lives to be a work of art? So it says, not being able to fall in love with his own beauty, God created a mirror to reflect his hidden grace. That mirror is the heart. Let the grace of the beloved emanate through you. And that's TaNaia. So when life becomes a daily repetition of mundane things, weariness seeps in. Physical and mental exhaustion take over and make us forget that our whole purpose in life is to have joy. We can break away from the hamster wheel by letting our hearts mirror the beauty that reflects new horizons and landscapes in life. Dear one, TaNaia appears here to guide you to release familiar routines, stagnant situations, or challenging relationships that no longer support you or empower you. He has brought you the happy news that searching and learning has created the grace for you to be who you truly are. The unseen spirit is guiding you to begin a new cycle in your life. Start doing things in a new way and trust that your life is guided. By following the excitement of your heart, you will automatically begin the process of recreating yourself as if you are crafting a work of art. Let me bring the card up again. Right. Oh, my beloved one, open your being to the healing shower of nectar from the light of love. It is an offering of grace, pouring from a great and loving heart, a benevolent and generous source from which you come. Now is the time for rebirth, for rebooting life, and the revival of clarity and inspiration. Know that every color that exists in the world, know that every color that exists in the light is ready to bring new colors into your world. There is unlimited potential all around you right now. You have the power to create anything you want for yourself and your life. Sufi wisdom is here to help you to light up your entire self as a work of art. Isn't that beautiful? And I think it was really interesting that it also spoke about, releasing, so breaking away from stagnant situations, maybe challenging relationships that no longer empower us, so that we can actually remember that our lives are supposed to have joy, our lives are supposed to be joy, and in that way we can really make our lives a work of art. So the mantra, if you're interested, I will say it 3 times. So the mantra for this card: I am creating a vision of a new organized life for myself. I'm allowing my dreams to be my natural way of expression. I am creating a vision of a new organized life for myself. I am allowing my dreams to be my natural way of expression. I am creating a vision of a new organized life for myself. I'm allowing my dreams to be my natural way of expression. So I think on that note, I hope you were able to get as much benefit out of this reading as I did. And I hope it really sets you up for this moment, for this week, to go ahead and to remember to switch on your inner light and to have these benefits that we've spoken about. So on that note, I'm going to say thank you for joining me. If you enjoyed this reading, please like and subscribe. If you want to get in contact with me, my contact details are in the box below. Otherwise, I will see you again very soon. Thank you. Bye.